My name is Elowyn Price, and I'm 38 years old. Competence doesn't perform, it hums. It's the kind of sound you notice only when it goes missing. Auto-pay clearing at dawn, contracts filed where they can be found in 2 clicks, a vendor list that actually matches the numbers. My office lights are the last ones off on our floor. That's not a brag, it's ballast. At 9:03 p.m., on a Thursday, my phone landed face up beside a stack of quarterly reports, and the notification bloomed like a bruise across the screen. Mason Vale, my boyfriend of 3 years, had posted, "Finally leaving my controlling girlfriend for my soulmate." She never saw the real me. Rhea did. New beginnings. True love. Know your worth. I read it twice, then tapped the little heart. The building's HVAC sighed through the ducts. Outside, the city was a sheet of wet asphalt and taillights. Inside, my spreadsheet blinked, waiting for a cell I suddenly didn't need to fill. 30 seconds later, Mason texted, "Mason, did you seriously just like my post about leaving you?" Me, "Yeah, good for you. When are you moving out?" The typing bubble came and went, a stuttering lighthouse in a fog no one asked for. 3 years in, and the most honest conversation we'd had took place on a screen. No begging, no bargaining, no speech about how he never meant to hurt me. I gave him what he claimed to want, permission to go, then swiveled back to what keeps air in my lungs, the work. The agency was mine 5 years before Mason liked a photo of my desk and decided he could live inside the caption. I hired him as creative director because titles buy peace. He posted carousels, pitched captions with too many ellipses, and once spelled restaurant on a paid ad. I swallowed the reprint cost and the apology call because swallowing is what ballast does. I opened our business bank portal. 2 clicks, his company card, canceled. The backup he'd, for emergencies, canceled. I removed his logins from the client management system and changed shared passwords to strings only a calculator could love. An email drafted itself in my head. "We're restructuring. Please direct all correspondence to me." No mention of him. I scheduled the lock change for 7 o'clock a.m. and pinged building management. The manager, Dominic, replied with a thumbs up and a "sorry you're dealing with drama." Drama wasn't the word. Spectacle was. By 10 p.m., the notifications were a storm. Mason's post had 100 hearts, then 2, then 3. Serena, his older sister, wrote beneath it, "Proud of you for leaving toxicity. Some women can't handle a strong man. I like that too." At 11:12, Mason texted again. "Mason, that's it? No discussion?" Me, "You made your choice publicly. I'm acknowledging it publicly. Logistics only from here." Mason, "Rhea says you'll try to lock me out of my company." I took a screenshot of my articles of incorporation, dated and notarized, 5 years before Mason. I sent the image, no caption. The bubble appeared, flickered, died. I shut down the office, walked through rooms washed in the blue light of machines sleeping. On the way out, I packed a banker's box with his personal things, the hoodie, the mug that said creative genius, the thrifted Polaroid camera he never learned to use, the succulent he watered once and then forgot. I left the box in the lobby with Dominic's night guard and a note, for Mason. Personal property only. I slept the way you sleep when a noise finally stops. Morning came with 50-plus texts and 1 voicemail where Mason used financial abuse 5 times in 30 seconds. At 6:58 a.m., the locksmith's drill hit the old cylinder. At 7:10, I held new keys, 2 copies, both mine. By 8, I'd sent the restructure email to our clients. It was factual, almost boring. Boring as a mercy in business. A few wrote back within minutes. "Appreciate the clarity, Elowyn. Honestly, we always talk to you anyway." "Saw Mason's post. Weird. We're with you." I was finishing one last line item when a shadow crossed my glass office door. Mason, jaw rigid, hair styled into a performance, stood in the hallway. Rhea was with him. Pretty in the way ring lights are pretty, a gauzy sweater and a look that said she knew when to center herself in a frame. Her smile didn't reach the pupils. Mason pounded the door with the heel of his hand. "Open up." I didn't. I pressed the intercom to the lobby. "Dominic, please ask our guest to meet me downstairs." He didn't wait. He kicked the door. Once. Twice. The glass held. The third kick set off a shiver in the frame. Dominic arrived with security and a voice that belonged to Tuesday mornings, not fights. "Folks, let's keep it civil." "This is my office," Mason announced loudly enough for the elevators to hear. "I'm here to retrieve my equipment and access my files. I'm the creative director." "Ma'am," security looked to me through the glass. I opened the door, stepped into the hall with a smile borrowed from client pitches. "Good morning. You're here for your things, Mason?" "They're downstairs, in a box. The equipment belongs to the company." Rhea folded her arms. "We know you're hiding cash in a safe." "What safe?" I asked, genuinely curious. "The one in the office," Mason said, throwing a glance toward my filing cabinet as if it might confess. "That's where client contracts live." Security cleared his throat. "Is your name on the lease, sir?" Mason puffed. "I'm with the person on the lease." "Name on the lease," the guard repeated, patient. "Ms. Price, only." Rhea's smile sharpened. "He has rights." "His personal property is in the lobby," I said. "He's welcome to it." Mason stalked to the elevator, furious dignity in every step, and returned with the box. He rifled through it as if I had hidden something more valuable than a dead succulent and a mug. When he didn't find a miracle, he slammed the lid closed and thrust it at Rhea, who did not flinch so much as blink, slow, calculating. He tried a new tactic. "Fine. Clients will follow me. They know I'm the visionary." As if conjured, Jerome, who owns the design firm next door, appeared in the hall. "Morning, Elowen. Morning, folks." His eyes flicked to Mason, then to me. Later, he'd tell me Rhea pulled him aside to ask if he needed a life coach. Today, he kept walking. Mason pointed at my door. "I'm coming in." Security stepped between us. "No, sir, not today." Rhea's voice went sweet. "Elowen, wouldn't it be kinder to let him collect his work?" "The work stays," I said, looking at Mason. "The person goes." They left with the box and a parting shot from Mason about lawyers and equity and what I'm owed. The elevator doors closed on their reflection. Two people rehearsing a story in which they were the brave ones. At 10:15, the business banker called. "Ms. Price, just a heads up. Someone presented at a branch requesting emergency cash on your business account." "Mason, we refused. Also, a loan application popped with your EIN and a name that isn't yours. We've flagged it." "Thank you," I said and meant it. At noon, a vendor rang. "We got an order for 5,000 business cards. Mason Vale, CEO. Are you authorizing?" "No, we don't have a CEO," I said. "We have a founder, me." By 2 p.m., an email arrived from Mason. An invoice for 3 years of creative direction, brand energy, emotional labor, and lost future earnings. Total. Astronomical. I replied with an itemized ledger. His salary, paid. Personal charges on the company card, WAFs neatly tallied. Money routed to Rhea's consulting, an amount that looked different when it was numbers instead of vibes. By my math, Mason, the balance goes the other way. I'll take a check. He didn't write back. Serena did, from her account, declaring I was a toxic control freak and that men deserved to feel seen. I forwarded everything to my attorney, who replied, "Subject, drafting, cease and desist." That night, I stood in my kitchen with a glass of water and the quiet. There are moments life offers you a choice between noise and structure. Noise promises you won't feel alone. Structure promises you won't drown. I chose structure, again. My phone buzzed on the counter, face down this time. I let it. Somewhere in the city, 2 people were rehearsing a future that would not pay their rent. In the morning, we would begin the rest. The thing about spectacle is that it feeds on witnesses. The thing about documentation is that it doesn't need any. By 8:40 a.m. the next day, I'd already answered 2 client emails and scheduled a production timeline that would carry us for 6 clean weeks. I allowed myself one indulgence, a calendar event labeled Air, 15 minutes between back-to-back calls. The event was still open on my screen when my phone rang with a number I knew by ringtone alone. "Kendrick from Alder and Pike," I answered. Our largest account. Mason liked to tell people he'd landed them with a vision deck. What actually landed them was a referral plus a 6-page scope, 3 rounds of revisions, and a discount for early payment because cash flow is a real thing, not a mood. "Elowen," Kendrick said, dry as ever. "I just got a message from Mason. He says he's starting his own agency and that he was the creative engine at yours. Asked us to come with him. Is there something I should know?" "Only that our deliverables will arrive on Tuesday as scheduled," I said. "We're mid-sprint. Nothing changes on your end." A pause, then a small exhale that always sounded like a shrug. "Thought so. To be honest, we weren't sure what he did." I smiled into the receiver. He curated vibes. Kendrick gave a single soft laugh, his version of applause. We're with you. When we hung up, I forwarded the call log to my lawyer, Ainsley Cho, with a short note. Attempted client poach. No movement. Ainsley replied 3 minutes later with a PDF titled Draft, Cease, and Desist. The subject line contained my favorite word in law, exhibit. At 10:02, my banker followed up on yesterday's warning. We also saw an online attempt to reset admin credentials, he said. IP address out of state. We flagged it. Thank you, I said again and meant it again. At 10:30, the printer called. So, about those 5,000 cards, CEO, he said you'd handle payment when he takes over next week. We need a purchase order. No PO, no payment, I said. And he's not taking over anything. Silence. Then the weary tone of a man who's seen too many grand plans on flimsy paper. We'll cancel the job. At 11:15, an email pinged. Serena's account. The subject line screamed, "A strong man threatens weak women." The body accused me of gatekeeping Mason's genius, of financial imprisonment, of weaponizing procedure. She signed it with a flower emoji, as if etiquette could alchemize slander into truth. I filed it under exhibits and let Ainsley turn it into a punctuation lesson. On lunch, I microwaved leftovers and allowed myself exactly one scroll through social media. Mason's post had collected a chorus of affirmations. Rhea had added a comment with a photo, her hand on his chest, his chin tilted like a magazine cover. When you know, she wrote. When you're seen, you soar. I liked that one too, a small private joke between me and the universe. At 1:02, Jerome tapped my glass door with 2 knuckles and slid in without fully closing it. You got a minute? He asked low. For you, always. He perched on the chair like he was trying not to crease it. He and the new partner. Rhea, I supplied. Right. They popped by my studio. She asked if I needed a life coach. He held up 2 fingers 1 inch apart. Said he got certified last week. I pressed my lips together to keep from smiling. How'd you respond? I asked for his client list. Jerome spread his hands. He told me he's pre-launch. Then Mason pulled me aside to pitch a retainer. If you invest in my coaching academy now, you can lock in founder pricing. Jerome shook his head, amused and tired at once. I told them I needed to sit with the energy. They took that as a maybe. I made a note. Coaching scheme. Week-old certificate. Thank you for the intel. He stood, leaned a knuckle on my desk. You good? Better than I expected, I said. We're a week from this being old news. Already is, Jerome said, and left me with the gift of a door barely ajar. At 1:27, Mason's email arrived. Subject: Invoice for services rendered. The attachment was a PDF dressed up in serif fonts and righteous certainty. Creative direction: 36 months, 450,000. Brand aura cultivation: 75,000. Emotional labor: 100,000. Lost future earnings: 500,000. Total due: 1,125,000. I opened a fresh sheet and wrote a response, not in adjectives, but numbers. Salary paid to Mason: 36 months, $165,000. Personal charges on company card, tallied to the cent. Payments to Rhea Collins for consulting, exact. Reprint costs for ad typo, documented. Balance: Mason owes me net. I attached receipts, statements, timestamps, and sent it with 1 line. By my math, the balance goes the other way. I'll take a check. He didn't respond. The absence wasn't silence, it was wind-up. At 2:45, the downstairs security line rang my phone. Ms. Price, he's back, the guard said. With her. Lobby? I asked. Lobby. I took the stairs, the way you do when you need to feel your pulse rise for a reason that's yours. They'd set up at a folding table like a science fair project, a printed sign reading Veil & Coil, creative in a font that had committed at least 3 misdemeanors, a jar of pens, a bowl of mints. Rhea sat with her ankles crossed and her gaze lifted as if she were about to receive a blessing. Mason stood, hands braced on the table. Morning, I said. We're here to connect with my clients, he announced. Let them know the real talent is moving on. Building policy prohibits solicitation in common areas, Dominic said mildly from behind his desk. Mason raised his voice. They can't stop us from speaking truth. The truth is, your personal property is in that box, and your name isn't on the lease, I replied, equally mild. If you want to pitch in the rain on the sidewalk, be my guest. The lobby is not a stage. As if conjured again, Kendrick strode in for a scheduled meeting. Mason slid into his path. Brother, you know I've been directing your creative... Kendrick looked at him, then at me, then back. You the one who spelled restaurant. Mason blinked. That was a stylistic... Kendrick walked past him. We'll be upstairs. Ria's smile cracked a millimeter. Mason's jaw worked like he was chewing on a paragraph that wouldn't swallow. Security approached. Time to pack it up, Dominic said. Ria stood, lifted the bowl of mints like a communion plate, and hissed without moving her lips. You can't gatekeep him forever. I'm not gatekeeping, I said. I've built a gate. They left trailing a breeze of cologne and wounded pride. When the doors shut, the building exhaled. By 3:10, Ainsley's email landed. Final. Cease and desist. Vale, Sash, Collins, Serena. She'd CC'd the right people, stamped the tone with ice, and tucked in the exhibits like razors in cotton. I read it once, thanked her, and added it to the structure folder that lives like a backbone in my drive. The rest of the afternoon was small and good. The intern proofed a carousel with no typos. Our media buyer negotiated a rate that made the spreadsheet glow. The quiet hum returned, the one you only notice after it's been interrupted. At 5:42, my phone lit up again with a new number. I let it go to voicemail. When I listened, his tone had shifted, the performative backbone replaced by syrup that didn't stick to anything. "Elle," he said, like a nickname could cross a river. "We don't have to be enemies. Ria says you'll try to ruin me. I know you're not like that. If you could just help me out. Maybe a severance for goodwill." I saved the message, transcribed it, filed it under exhibits. Then I watered the single-piece lily on my shelf, the only plant in my life that refuses to die even when ignored. It wilted dramatically when thirsty, then forgave easily with a drink. Some living things announce their needs in ways that feel like crisis. Others make it your job to guess. At 7:03, I locked the office and watched the city blue itself into evening. Down on the sidewalk, two silhouettes paused under the awning, his shoulders pitched forward, her phone held high like a mirror. They were talking, but from where I stood, it looked like they were rehearsing. I recognized the posture. I used to mistake it for partnership. The door clicked behind me. The hum returned. The inbox quieted. Inside the silence, a new thread. Tomorrow. Vendor reconciliation at 9. Creative director interviews at 11. Ainsley's call at 2. Structure. Air. Repeat. Somewhere else, spectacle pivoted to its next act. It always does. There's a point in every unraveling where anger loses its costume and shows up in pajamas. That's when the real story starts. By Sunday morning, a Facebook message request waited in my other folder. The name was unfamiliar. Lydia Quinn. The first line read, "Hey, weird question, but are you dating a guy named Mason Vale?" I stared at it for a moment, then typed, "Was." Her reply came in seconds. Figures. He still owes me $3,000. Said it was for a coaching startup. Spent it on concert tickets and vape pens. He only dates women with money. I scrolled further. Lydia wasn't alone. There were 2 more messages, one from a Monica Reyes, another from Celeste Ward, each a variation on the same theme. Mason moves in, drains bank accounts, blames bad luck, then finds a new muse. I thanked them. Lydia ended her note with, "You seem like the first one who won't apologize for not saving him." She was right. By Monday, the escalation had turned procedural. Mason filed a claim for unpaid partnership compensation. It arrived as a formal envelope with his shaky signature on the back and a legal header that looked like it had been printed from a template website. My lawyer, Ainsley, called after skimming it. "Common law partner, huh?" she said, amusement warming her vowels. "No commingled accounts, no joint property, and he publicly declared you controlling on social media. It's not even a close call." "Let's respond with receipts," I said. "Oh, we will," she promised. "Also, heads up, he's been inquiring about emergency withdrawals at multiple branches. You might want to alert your accountant." By noon, the paperwork was filed, sealed, and sent. I added a reminder in my project management board titled Palimony Claim, Q3 Cleanup. The color code was blue, same as minor bugs. At 2:14 p.m., the intercom buzzed. Dominic's voice came through, resigned. "He's back, Ms. Price, and he's brought company, says it's official business." When the elevator opened, Mason stepped out wearing a suit that had lost its will to impress. Serena was behind him, phone in hand, recording like she was auditioning for a reality show. A police officer trailed them, expression blank. "Ms. Price," the officer asked, "they're saying you're withholding personal belongings." "Everything of his is boxed in the guest room," I said evenly. "He's welcome to it." Mason gestured grandly toward the office. "She's hiding cash in a safe." The officer looked at me. "There a safe?" "There's a filing cabinet," I said. "Client contracts, no cash." Serena muttered something about financial abuse. I opened the door, let them in. Mason went straight for the living room, scanning like a detective in a bad procedural. When he reached the china cabinet, he froze. "That's mine," he said, pointing at a set of delicate porcelain dishes. "My grandmother's," I replied, "inherited. Receipts and certificates are in my records." He picked one up anyway. "You never even use them." "Still not yours." The plate hit the wall before I finished the sentence. Shattered porcelain scattered across hardwood like ice breaking. The officer sighed, hand moving to his cuffs. "Sir, that's destruction of property." "I didn't—" Serena grabbed his arm. "She's provoking him." The officer shook his head, already bored. "Let's keep it simple. Clothes and personal effects only." Mason glared at me, jaw trembling. "You always do this. You take everything and leave people with nothing." "You mean accountability," I said. "That's not nothing." He didn't answer. The cuffs clicked shut. Serena started shouting about abuse and manipulation until the officer told her, flatly, to stop filming. They left with the boxes. The shattered china remained. I swept it into a trash bag and set it by the door. It was easier to let the evidence go than to live with the noise of it. By Wednesday, Spectacle reinvented itself. At 8:03 a.m., Jerome texted, "You need to come downstairs." I did, and stopped mid-step. Mason had set up another folding table, this time in the building's front lobby. The sign read, "Mason Vale Creative Consulting." The real vision behind Price Media. He'd printed flyers, actual, physical flyers. Rhea was seated beside him, typing on a laptop as if this were a co-working session rather than trespassing. Dominic was already there, speaking low but firm. "You can't solicit here, sir." "I have a right to earn a living," Mason snapped. "This is public space." "It's private property," Dominic corrected. Mason turned toward me as I approached. "Elowen, be reasonable. You stole my clients." "You announced on the internet that you were leaving me for your soulmate," I said. "Actions have consequences." Rhea stood, sliding a stack of flyers toward me. "We're offering consulting services, half off for new accounts." "Maybe start with spelling your own email right," I said, glancing at the typo on the sheet. valacreativeco@gmail.com. She flushed. Mason slammed his palm against the table. "You think this is funny? I think it's predictable." Just then, Kendrick from Alder & Pike walked in for his meeting. Mason lunged forward. "Brother, you know I was your creative voice." Kendrick didn't break stride. "You the one who spelled restaurant wrong?" "That was artistic license." "Sure," Kendrick said, "and this conversation's over." He waved to me. "Upstairs?" I nodded. Security moved in. Mason shouted something about patriarchy and silencing male entrepreneurs before Dominic and another guard ushered them both out. The mints clattered across the floor like loose coins. By the time I reached my office, Ainsley's email was waiting. Subject, restraining order prep. Her message was short. "We'll file tomorrow. Document everything tonight." I did. That night, I sat at my kitchen counter with a folder of screenshots, receipts, and statements, an archive of chaos neatly ordered by date. In another tab, Rhea's Instagram feed glowed. The aesthetic downgrade from my loft to Mason's one-bedroom was stunning. Ring lights on folding tables, gas station coffee labeled grind fuel, captions about love over luxury nestled between manifestation hashtags. But the eyes told the real story. Rhea's smile looked stretched, Mason's edges dulling. The comments had slowed from hearts to question marks. One read, "Didn't he post the same captions with Lydia?" Another, "Girl, blink twice if you need help." I closed the app. If Spectacle was a stage, they were running out of audience. At 11:54 p.m., my phone lit with a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Elowen, hey," Mason's voice came, soft, hoarse, practiced. Listen, things got out of hand. Ria's been distant. Serena says I should apologize. For which part? I asked. A pause. You don't have to be cruel. I'm not, just specific. He exhaled. I'm starting over. Thought maybe you could recommend me to clients. Just a few to get traction. I could, I said, but I won't. He laughed once, sharp. You always think you're better. No, I just think I finish what I start. Silence, then you'll regret this. I already did, I said, and hung up. I filed the call log under exhibits, turned off my phone, and went to bed. Sleep came slow, but it came. Heavier than forgiveness, lighter than rage. Tomorrow would bring the collapse, and I intended to watch it quietly. Collapse doesn't roar. It rustles, like a curtain that forgets it's supposed to stay up. By Friday morning, the first rustle came through a DM from a stranger named Tamara Liddell. She attached screenshots, Mason's dating profile, bright smile, and empty promises. Single entrepreneur seeking a queen who knows her worth. Life coach, visionary, manifester. The timestamps were fresh, posted while he was still living with Ria. Tamara added, he matched with my friend 2 nights ago. He asked if she'd like to invest in his coaching academy. Declined card, she paid the bill. Thought you should know. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt the slow burn of déjà vu. The pattern was predictable, but predictability doesn't dull disgust. It just gives it a rhythm. By Saturday, word reached me through Jerome. Guess who just tried to rent the co-working space next door, he said, leaning in my doorway, grin sharp. Your ex. Said he's launching Veil Coaching Academy. The deposit check bounced before it cleared. I smiled. The universe saves on ink when it repeats itself. Jerome chuckled. You should see Ria's face when she picks him up. Like she's realizing she's been in a group project alone. The truth was, Ria's Instagram had gone quiet. 3 days, no posts. Then, late that night, one reappeared. A selfie, mascara smudged, captioned, "Trust is currency. Spend it wisely." Comments were off. Sunday's stillness broke at 2:03 a.m. My phone buzzed across the nightstand. Mason. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. His voice came wet and frantic. Elowen, please, Ria, she locked me out. She changed the codes. She learned fast, I said. She says I stole from her. Can you believe that? Yes. He choked out a laugh. You don't even pretend to have compassion anymore. Compassion? I sat up. You publicly humiliated me, tried to steal my company, smashed my grandmother's china, and forged my signature. You don't get compassion. You get consequences. She froze my accounts, he whispered. I only have 3,000 left. She said we'd build something together. Did you add her to your bank account? Silence. Mason, I pressed. Did you? Another silence, then a low, defeated yeah. Then you have 0 left. A sound left him, half moan, half disbelief. How did you know? Because that's what you do, I said quietly. You find builders and call them controlling. You find stability and call it a cage. He sniffed, the kind of sound you can't rehearse. You win, Elle. There was never a contest, I said. Just a cleanup. He started to speak again, something that sounded like help, but I ended the call before he could finish. Then I blocked the number. On Monday, Ria's post vanished. Her entire account did. Rumor through the building was that Mason had disappeared too, moved 2 states away to mentor a small business owner he met online. The details varied, depending on who you asked. An Etsy shop, a Pilates studio, a candle line. All stories had the same ending. Someone with a checking account and a soft heart. 2 weeks later, I got the final call from Ainsley. Everything's settled, she said. His partnership claim dismissed. Restraining order granted. Damage restitution closed. And the china? Technically sentimental loss, not compensable, but I'm told replacements exist. I looked across the kitchen counter where an unopened box from a home goods store sat, clean porcelain waiting to be used. They do, I said. Business thrived. Turns out several clients had quietly disliked Mason's flair for chaos, but didn't want to offend me. Without his creative direction, deadlines landed early, feedback shrank to bullet points, and the profit sheet smiled in green. I hired a real creative director, Nadia, who actually had a portfolio and a calm that hummed the same frequency as mine. We cleared the backlog in 2 months. On Fridays, Jerome dropped by with takeout, called it debriefing the circus. Sometimes we'd laugh until my sides hurt. 3 months later, a new notification appeared on my screen. LinkedIn. Mason Vale has requested to connect. His profile headline read, Experienced CEO, Visionary Leader, Founder, Price Media, 2019 to 2024. Under experience, he'd listed my company, my years, as his own. I stared for a long second, then took a screenshot and forwarded it to Ainsley. She replied 30 seconds later with 3 laughing emojis and the line, reporting it now. I hit block. Then I sat back, let the quiet fold around me like something earned. Life has texture again. Soft, not dull. The office hums without apology. I replace the shattered china with plates I actually use. Coffee tastes better from them, maybe because they were never bought to impress anyone. Sometimes I think about what Mason's post really gave me. A line in the sand, drawn by someone else's ego. All I had to do was stop stepping over it. When people show you who they are by leaving you for their soulmate, believe them. And when the storm finally goes still, change your locks, update your passwords, and pour a quiet cup of something strong in a house that hums because you built it.